think this might well be the last bottle of my Tettnang beer that I brewed last year, so I thought I'd better video the taste of it, if you know what I mean. It had a fairly heavy amount of Tettnang hops in it, and when it had first finished bottle conditioning, it was a fairly hazy brew. But now, after not quite a year in the bottle, it has cleared up a lot, and depending on the angle and the lighting, it's been a very clear beer. Not that that's the be all and end all of beer. This brew was the Tettnang SExSHop beer, slightly tongue-in-cheek with the name of that. The SExSHop was just meant to stand for single extract, single hop, as a extract brewer's equivalent of the smash beers. Whatever, the idea was to concentrate here on the hop. I've never used Tettnang before. Tettnang hops must be grown in the Tettnang area of Germany, I believe. If the same variety is grown anywhere else, I believe it has to be sold under the name Tettnanger. What I've got here is Tettnang. 80 grams went in, 40 at the beginning of the boil, another 40 for the last 15 minutes. I also tried to read up on Tettnang to find out what flavour characteristics it gives a beer. I couldn't actually find anything that was clearly understandable as far as I'm concerned. Fairly vague descriptions were given, describing it as having noble characteristics, but I believe the definition of noble characteristics people disagree on anyway. It's got a pretty low alpha acid content, which is why I put so many hops in my brew, but I also had read that you can put a large amount in without getting a grassy flavour, and certainly I found on the other bottles that I've opened there's certainly no grassiness there. With the amount put in there, there's a decent whack of bitterness, nothing too astringent, but I have been hard pushed to give a usable description of what characteristics this hop gives. There's not a massive amount of aroma there. All I can really say is I like it. If you push me, the best description I could give it is having a nice savoury flavour. I had read there's meant to be some mild spiciness, but even with that amount of hops that I used, I think mild is certainly the word. As far as using it, this has been a very nice, light drinking beer. I think the characteristics of this hop would be lost in a heavier malt profile. Anything that was more malt forward, I think you would lose this hop. I mean, certainly obviously the bitterness would still be there, but if you're looking for a bittering hop, you know, you wouldn't use this because of the low alpha acid content. But I'm pretty crap when it comes to describing hop characteristics. I mean, there's more to it than bitterness, obviously, and I've obviously used that fairly woolly expression, nice savoury flavour, but it's certainly nice, and I will use it again in a nice sort of light summer beer. I mean, this is fairly amber. I mean, I did use a light malt extract. If I was going to do an all-grain brew, I would keep it fairly sort of light and wheaty. In fact, I think the Tettnang would go very nicely in a wheat beer. But anyway, I'm not going to waffle on any longer because I can't give you any other useful description of the flavour of the Tettnang. Apart from it being nice, I like it, savoury, apparently mildly spicy, and noble characteristics. I might just show you a photo I took of the brew, looking rather beautiful there, looking lovely and clear. Anyway, I thought I'd round that off as the last video of the Tettnang. Put a video out there previously from brew to bottle, but obviously didn't have the tasting, so this should nicely end that. Anyway, cheers.